My Ironman journey has been one of the most rewarding gaming experiences I've ever had. The reason I created an Ironman in the first place was to escape the GP obsessed hellscape that is Mainscape. While I personally wasn't obsessed with GP, I couldn't help but feel that everything I was doing was a complete waste of time because I could just simply purchase bonds to speed up all my progress. And years ago, before I created my Iron Man, my willpower was absolute shit. So to save money, I created an Iron Man. And after thousands of hours, 4,000 plus specifically, I finally reached the end game. So the question is, was it all worth the hype? First, let's define what I mean by endgame. I believe you've reached endgame when you've hit the following milestones on an Ironman. You're maxed, you've acquired the core PVM items, like the Bofa, Fire Cape, Dragon Hunter Lance, and you're pretty much at the point where all you're doing is just hunting for raid drops. Being self-sufficient is the core part of being an Ironman, and by now you should have thousands upon thousands of resources that you've acquired through your grind to max. You shouldn't really have to worry about running out if you've stayed on top of things, like birdhouses or farming runs. So PVM should be providing a ridiculous amount of supplies while you're hunting for drops. On the way to endgame, I would say it was probably Zulrah, the Corrupted Gauntlet, and Slayer in general. Zulrah as a whole should be a pretty short grind for most people. Personally, I got most of the uniques from Zulrah, around 400 kills, but Zulrah is a boss where you will always go back to eventually. Whether you like it or not, you will always need skills. Fortunately though, the blowpipe isn't used as much as it once was, but a trident is going to be your go-to magic weapon for 99% of the content requiring magic until you get a shadow. The Corrupted Gauntlet. I would say the Corrupted Gauntlet is the start of when grinds start to get real for new Ironman. It will make or break you. I've seen so many people say that the Bofa is completely skippable, but that is 100% cope. The only real skip is to get a T-bow, which is going to be around 500 hours, give or take, on rate. Getting spooned T-bow is pretty much like winning the lottery, so you shouldn't expect that. And no, a rune crossbow is not a good substitute. Neither is a blowpipe. I mean, personally, I was spooned and managed to get my Bofa at around 129 KC, but I've seen others go for literally thousands of runs for theirs. Why is the Bofa so good? Because it is literally the strongest ranged weapon you'll have pre-T-bow. And if a T-bow is strong somewhere, then the second best option is going to be a Bofa. Same goes with a Shadow. It essentially opens up the rest of the game for you, and the only bad thing about the Bofa is having to keep the armor charged. And yes, you should 100% corrupt it. And Slayer, by endgame, you should have most of the important Slayer drops on your way to 99. Hopefully, that includes an imbued heart. If it doesn't, sucks for you. The drops I made sure to get were a Dragon Warhammer, an Emberlight, Scorching Bow, and Burning Claws, a Trident, all Cerberus boots for the drip, all Zenite jewelry, an Occult, as well as a Hydra Claw to create a Dragon Hunter Lance, and lastly, the Rancor Amulet. As for the highs and lows about being an Ironman at the end game, the first is having to rely on solo strats for most of the content in the game. Depending on who you are, this could be a good or a bad thing. It can be hella satisfying to kill every single boss by yourself, but at the same time, sometimes it's fun to just chill with the boys on Discord and get some drops. But as a solo oriented player, I don't really care either way. But if you aren't a solo oriented, I can definitely see how it can start to be pretty boring if you're not able to boss with your friends. I'm gonna have to say though, earning all of my gear myself has been one of the most rewarding parts of this game mode. Every time I open my bank and go to my gear tab, I just nod and think, you know, I did this. I didn't have to swipe for any of it, even though at this point it's going to take hundreds of hours per boss for a marginal upgrade. I haven't even achieved all of my goals of getting BIS, but I know with each raid clear, I know that I'm surely itching closer to getting best in slot. The low points. These days, every single boss has incredibly low drop rates. New boss comes out, oh shit, better get ready to kill it a minimum of 1,000 times for a 0.1% DPS increase. The absolute burnout can be real. I've been in Cox for a couple months now, and nothing will beat the feeling of despair after receiving yet another prayer scroll from a long dry streak of purples. Friendly reminder that it will take you over 1,000 hours to complete this raid, excluding the pet. The real life time commitment required for these endgame grinds can be so ridiculous that the best way to do them is to just have a set number of KC per day instead of just grinding them for hours and hours. Not gonna lie, now that I'm at the point where I'm at the end game, I'm starting to miss being able to trade. Ironically, I used to feel that drops didn't feel rewarding on a normie because you would just sell them, but as an Ironman, dupes don't feel rewarding because they're completely useless other than death coffering. This might be a grass is always greener situation, supplies, and having to start gathering them again. And I swear to God, the day I run out of Ranars is the day I de-iron, because ain't no way I'm going back to Master Farmers. Not to mention that raiding with other people is kind of a hassle since you can't share supplies with anyone. Of course, this is only relevant in things like chambers, but fortunately chambers is hella easy to just solo after, a ton of learning. So I would suggest to balance the isolation and to make these endgame grinds more bearable, I would just 100% recommend finding a clan. I know we stand alone, but getting drops is a lot more satisfying when it gets announced in the clan chat for everyone to see. Throughout my time at Endgame thus far, I will say that I've gained a shit ton of discipline thanks to only doing a select number of KC per day when it comes to chambers specifically. Have I felt any satisfaction? Not yet, but one of these days I will, when I finally get a decent drop. Could even be a Tebow. Surely next run. I've sacrificed so much time and I've barely made a dent on the way to hitting the rate for a Tebow. With the amount of points that I'm getting, I have a roughly 1 in 1,000 chance per raid. I'm scared. I'm scared. When I compare the endgame experience to the experience of a main account at the endgame, honestly, they're almost exactly the same. The only difference is that we, as Ironmen, we can't use any speed strats, and we have to do chores to make sure we actually have supplies. That's it. The early and mid game are a far, far better experience on an Ironman, but I didn't expect the end game to be so similar between the game modes. So my final verdict as to whether Endgame is actually worth it as an Ironman, this is going to be a hot take, but I'm not 100% sure I can recommend this mode for most people, at least when it comes to this stage, because it isn't for the faint of heart. If you aren't comfortable with the thought of potentially never receiving certain items because of their rarity, and because it will take you literally hundreds of hours per boss for a marginal upgrade, this isn't even accounting for dryness. I don't know what to tell you. But Trayvon, in one of your videos, you said that Iron Man mode is the best way to play the game. Look. This is still true to a point. I would still recommend the game mode in most circumstances. 99% of people do not reach this point of the game where I'm at, where they're maxed and are just hunting for the rarest drops in the game.